One day at school, we heard there was a fire south of town, and no big deal, but we looked outside and it's pretty windy, so we kind of got worried.
When the fire page went off, me and my son was about 90 miles south of here moving wheat pasture cattle.
We had ash falling here and the sky was very orange just from the sun and coming through the smoke.
I remember about 12:30 we smelled smoke and I told everybody I'm going to go try to find it. We thought we could see the smoke to the west.
My home was gone. Katie's home we thought was probably gone. Molly and CJ's home was gone. The barn was gone. And our office was gone.
It was a dirty, windy day, a very low humidity, and we had not received any rain, and so it was quite dry. And I remember about 12:30 we smelled smoke, and I told everybody I'm going to go try to find it. We thought we could see the smoke to the west, and so I went about 20 miles from here, and I was at Harry Walker's farm, and Harry and his son Rick and I, we could see where it was. We knew where it was. It was at Frosty Eddiger's, and that was another 10 or 15 miles to the west. And we thought the best thing we could do with these 60, 70 mile an hour winds was to stay out of the way. And at that time, the wind was out of the south, and it was moving north. And so we came back and went back to work, and we got about 3 miles from where we're standing now, and we could see the fire coming. And you know, we had losses like everybody did in the fire. I lost my home, and we lost several outbuildings, and some of our equipment we lost. We lost about 600 cows, and when you lose those cows, they were either pregnant or they had a calf inside, and so in general, the majority of them were pregnant, so you not only lost the cow, you lost the calf that was inside of her too. With that, we also lost all the fences, and you know, when you do the math on that, that's about 265, 270 miles of fence. Again, it's July 27th, 2017, and we have at this point repaired and replaced about 70 miles, so we've got 190 to 200 miles to go. But we're doing well, and God has been good from the standpoint of, on March 23rd, it looked like the dirty 30s, the wind was blowing and the sand was drifting up because this land is all highly alluvial blow sand, and so it's real fragile. And we didn't have any cover, but since late March until now, and this is unheard of, we've had 15 inches of rain. So the land is covered today. It's as good as it could possibly be on the grass. We're still struggling to get the fences in place where we can get the cattle out and get them on the grass. You know, a lot of the resources say, like from Michigan and Ohio and so many other places, we had 7,000 big bales of hay. Danged if it didn't get every last bale. But because of the generosity of so many folks, that hay was replaced for the community. And so we're using that hay to feed a lot of these cattle as we wait to be able to get them kicked back out.
We got a notice that said fires in the area, be aware, and 4.5 minutes later the notice said evacuate now. All the sheriff deputies were driving up and down all the roads here in town and on their loudspeakers announcing evacuate now, the fire's coming. When the evacuation happened, immediately you just started throwing things in the vehicle. My husband Justin was loading livestock and dogs and just trying to save what we could and turning out what we couldn't haul with us. When we left, I asked my daughter, I said, call my mom. I'm not sure where we're supposed to go because there was smoke and fire all the way around us. And at that point, the winds were pretty much out of the west and blowing straight east. So my mom said to meet her in Sitka, which is about 5 miles east of here. My daughter, myself, and my son and I stopped at Sitka to meet up with my mother, and my mother wasn't there. And so we just assumed that she had went on to protection because that's where they initially told us to go. When we get to protection, the fire whistles went off in protection and they evacuated protection and sent everybody to Coldwater. My sister lives in Louisiana and called and said, I can't get a hold of Mom. Dad sent her south into the fire. He can't get a hold of her. The cell phones were not exactly working perfectly. So by the time she got out, the road, the pavement, and everything for 6 miles was on fire that she had to drive through. My mother hugged me in a way that she has never hugged me before. And as you looked around, everybody in the parking lot was doing the exact same. We did not know if my dad was okay. We didn't know if my brother and his family were okay. My parents are limousine breeders, and they had bulls up on the hill just here on the west side of town, and my dad had cut the fence. And so we had bulls roaming in town that had to be rounded up on Wednesday.
The guys had fell back into structure protection because the fire was too massive to battle. They saved some houses out west, saved some houses right here west of town, and then they had to come into town and try to save town. We only have 6 trucks, and so we were pretty short-handed. The guys come back into town, took a strategic stand in the middle of town. The fire was so hot and the wind was so high, the humidity was low, it was 6%. They melted some lights in one of our fire trucks. They melted the windshield in one. They did save all the houses they went to with the fire trucks. We just didn't have enough trucks to protect everything. The firemen did great. We got guys from, I don't know, 18 years old to 70. No one faltered. They all stood their ground, and there was times that it was scary to say the least. They set on a lot of houses, saved them, saved the town. We were overwhelmed by the amount of fire we had, but we did what we had to do to save what we could. I'm extremely proud of the fire department for what they did that day. And the guys, I had guys that stayed on the trucks 50 hours. Some of them we had to move from one position to the other because they were too tired to keep doing what they had been doing. We had one fireman go down. He took about 30 minutes off, and then he was back on duty. I'm just really proud of the fire guys because they never faltered. They stood where some wouldn't have. Our fire department they're what I call a generational fire department. We have one family that has 3 generations on it. My family has 2 generations on it. And just about all of our firemen are farm background guys. They either own a farm or ranch or they work on one. So it got pretty personal with us. Several guys lost stuff of their own while protecting for others. But that's what we do.
On March 6th, we had lunch at the office and noticed some smoke coming up the valley. So we called a friend that was on the volunteer fire department, and he said there was a fire down by Inglewood. So at that point, my brother-in-law, CJ, Molly's husband, went and started loading up our water truck to go haul water to the fire. And my mom and some of the little ones started making lunches to take to the firemen. In the meantime, a fire popped up straight west of us, and the wind was out of the west. And it was at that point still far enough away we weren't sure, should we start preparing? My husband had been south of town by Gardiner's. He had some wheat pasture down there, and he had come home and loaded all of our horses and bucket calves and dog at our house. And everybody that made it off the place went to meet in Protection, which is 20 miles southeast of here. By the time we got to Protection, they were evacuating Protection, and we went on to Coldwater, and that's where we all met up and regrouped. My home was gone. Katie's home we thought was probably gone. Molly and CJ's home was gone. The barn was gone, and our office was gone. In the end, overall, we lost roughly half of our cow herd, 80% of our calf crop, and 2 saddle horses, a mare and colt, a donkey, a dog, and a few cats. But we were all safe, and we're all healthy. We've rebuilt before, and we are working on it again now.
One day at school, we heard there was a fire south of town, and no big deal, but we looked outside and it was pretty windy, so we kind of got worried. And all of a sudden, my aunts, my uncles, and my dad all went to go fight this fire. So as you can see this picture, this is my uncle fighting the fire. He's in one of our tractors. He's trying to save his house with one of our tractors, and he saved the house, but we lost a Quonset in the fire. But later on that day, we ended up losing the tractor to the fire because it got stuck in the creek. So we lost a few cattle, but it wasn't near as many as some of our neighbors. So we took on some orphan calves. We took 3 on from the Miller Ranch over in Clark County, and we've raised them. We bottle fed them for 3 months since March, and then we weaned them off about 2 weeks ago. So now they're on grass. They're all doing well, and we're about to get them back to their owners.
This is a character builder. I mean, that's just pure, plain and simple, all it is. We have to do it when we want to do it, when we don't want to do it, when it's hot, cold, rainy, snowy, and we hit all of that. And those kids were out there doing it with the adults every single day, every time. This isn't a fun project. Baby calves on bottles are fun for about 2 days, and then they're just a lot of tedious work, a lot of watching, caring, wondering, tracking, all of that. So this built character in kids, and you know, I watched so many kids from so many communities take ownership in making this a success and making sure that these calves got back to the ranches healthy, fat, and it worked.
There was so much giving that came from out of state and particularly Michigan. And in addition to the hay, in addition to the supplies, was loads of hope, because each day these ranchers and farmers were struggling. They were struggling to get up and have the motivation to go out the next day and deal with the livestock that were burnt and the fences that were destroyed and the no feed. And as the supplies come in, as that hay was being distributed, and You could just see their spirits lifting. You could see how they were, could see tomorrow was going to unfold, and they were going to be able to feed their cattle the next day, and then the day after that, and it just made a huge difference to see that support from across the United States, and when that convoys from Michigan showed up, it was just an uplifting moment, and it made a huge difference.
I'm pretty sure I talked to at least 10 secretaries of agriculture in other states and heard them saying, how can we help you? How can we help you now? How can we help you get hay? How can we help you get that hay transported? And all of those types of things. But at the same time, they're also asking the question, Secretary Clover Adams from Michigan, one of the first, what do we need to be doing in Washington to help resolve this so that we're better off in the future? And so the idea of working together to help resolve those issues, and we think there's some things we can continue to work on there.
When the fire actually occurred, and I came out the next day and was looking around, and certainly it's absolutely devastating for everyone. But then you start seeing all the semi-trucks coming down the road, and 4 or 5 pasture within a mile, semi-trucks full of supplies and hay coming to help those people who were hurt the most. And you know, you think you're a pretty tough guy, but it really affects you emotionally that they actually are bringing all that hay from all over the United States to here. And then particularly this group bringing hay from Michigan, 1,200 miles, caravan of 45 trucks. It's just one of those things that just, you say, you know, there's some really good people in this world.
The hay started coming in from everywhere, Michigan, Ohio, and of course our local states, but I think the uplift that the local people felt when the convoys started coming in, that was something special. And all the people that came in, they were, we've met a lot of good people. They went way out of their way to help us, and I can't say enough about thank you to everybody.
What helped me get on board with this is taking a trip out there and seeing what the people out in Oklahoma and Kansas have gone through. I think farmers helping farmers is the best thing going. Doesn't matter if you're in a rural community or out west or where, your neighbors will step up and help time of disaster. And I think the ag industry is one of the best things out there going for people helping people. They're very generous and giving. Everybody opens up their wallets and their hearts and they give.
Once this trip got underway, we started to see just how many people wanted to get behind helping their neighbors in the ag community, and we had such a great network of people together already. We figured it'd be a real shame to let that network kind of fizzle out, so that's where Ag Community Relief got born, and now we've got a great group of people that we can rely on for help when the time comes. And now Montana's in need, and North Dakota with the drought. We're gonna do our best to send as much help up that way as we can.